Hello all, my name is Krishnak and welcome to my YouTube channel. So guys, we are going to start the data structures and algorithm series in my YouTube channel, and I'll also be focusing more on competitive programming. So we will try to understand some of the basics initially, what is time constraint, what is space constraint and all. Apart from that, we'll also be discussing what exactly is data structures, and as the classes will be going on, I'll be discussing about various different kind of algorithms that are commonly used in data structures. And trust me, this will be definitely helpful for you because it will help you to build up the logics that is actually required in coding. And when I say about competitive programming, a lot of competitions are that you will be also able to participate. Product-based companies where they focus more on data structures and algorithms, they focus more on, they'll try to give you a use case and they'll tell you to solve it over there. And that time, if you have a very good hands-on experience on data structures and algorithms, you will definitely be able to solve those particular problem statements. So we'll try to understand in this particular video. We'll just talk about the basic stuff, and in my next video I'll be talking about something called as asymptotic notations, and after that we'll be deep diving into various algorithms in data structures. And trust me guys, in the middle I'll also be giving you problem statements where you have to think how you're going to solve that particular problem, considering time constraint and memory constraint, space constraint in mind. Okay, so let us go ahead and try to understand. First of all, we will try to understand what exactly is data structures. Now, data structures is an efficient way of storing a data. So some of the data structures which we use even as a data scientist in any programming language, suppose you're considering with the help of Python, Java, .NET, anything, right? At that time, you'll be using various data structures like arrays, matrices, lists, dictionaries, hash tables, various kind of data structures, linked lists, stacks, queues, and many more. Now, this all data structures helps you to efficiently store the data so that wherever you are actually utilizing those concepts, you are utilizing those data structures, it can be efficiently utilized with less amount of time, right? So it is pretty much important. And in data structures, I am going to combine everything. In this particular series, I'm going to combine everything. Sometimes I'll be discussing about a problem statement where I'll be including data structures, I'll be including algorithms, I'll be including some kind of logics to solve that particular problem statement. And if I talk about algorithms, what is exactly algorithms? Understand guys, I have given a problem statement. Okay, this problem statement may be anything. Consider it as sorting algorithm. Okay, but again, it will not be just a simple sorting algorithm. It will be something more complex, considering a use case. I know I've seen many people who are exactly perfect with sorting algorithms, with all the different types of stuffs, with all the data structures, but still, if they are given a small problem statement, they are not able to solve it. So now based on this problem statement, I can actually create different kind of code. I can actually write logics and I can create algorithms like this will be my algorithm 1, this will be my algorithm 2, this will be my algorithm 3, this will be my algorithm 4. So for solving a problem statement, I may have various ways. Okay, there is just not a single way. Now suppose from all these particular ways, which is the best one? Okay, how do I decide which algorithm is the best one? Right now, if you are considering various product-based companies, the logic that is completely written from scratch by people, it is pretty much awesome. I've seen some of my friends who write pure code considering different problem statements, and they're pretty much sharp. Okay, I'm just an average person, definitely. But if I just consider their talent, and that is all because of practice, you have to practice a whole lot of things. Now, considering this many algorithms for this particular problem statement, which is the best algorithm? How do I decide it? Now, for deciding, we basically have two important things. One is time constraint. The second one is something called as space constraint. I can say space constraint, memory constraint, it depends. Now, what exactly is this? Time constraint basically says that how much time you are actually taking to solve this particular problem. And definitely in this particular technology where you have seen a lot of innovations, let it be an e-commerce website, retail website, if you just consider about Amazon.in, right? If you're searching for some queries, if you're seeing that how the product is actually recommended in front of you, so many things are happening within a fraction of seconds, right? It is pretty much important. So for that, the time constraint basically says that how much time it is taking for a particular problem statement to get executed when I'm considering this particular algorithm, and it may be dependent on the size of the input. So as the size of the input also increases, the time also will increase for that particular execution, right? So all those things. So based on that, suppose I consider all this particular algorithm. The second one is space constraint. Now space constraint basically says that how much memory you are actually allocating for executing this particular stuff, for this particular problem statement. Okay, how much memory? And trust me guys, time constraint and space constraint, and it will not be like if the time constraint is high, the space constraint may be high. Okay, it will not be like that. Okay, sometimes it may happen is that you have a higher space constraint, okay, but you have less time constraint. But again, understand, in space constraint you require a huge amount of memory. Again, there is some resource allocation happening over there, and because of that, there is some cost involved. So it is pretty much important for a very, very good developer who are actually writing codes in data structures. They need to consider these two things. You need not write a bad code, So I'll still more discuss about things, because in the future, in the upcoming classes, I'll be giving you problem statements. I'll be telling you how you're going to solve this particular problem. And you'll be considering that, okay, let me use one for loop. Then again, you'll say that I'll use another for loop. Now in this particular for loop, what will happen? It will go from 1 to n, suppose, right? And here, my another for loop will be j. This will also go from 1 to n. Now in this particular case, what is happening? Here, you'll be seeing that this will be running for n number of times. Then this will be running for n number of times. Now if I just consider the total time constraint of this, it will be somewhere around order of n square, n multiplied by n. I'll show you how to execute this all things, how to calculate all this particular thing. Theoretically and practically, I'll just show you all. And now this is completely dependent on this n. Now just understand, if in this for loop there are millions of values, now how much time it may take, right? So we'll try to understand how to actually calculate this time constraint, and based on this, how efficiently we can decide which algorithm is the best, right? Now considering all this particular algorithm, you will be selecting one algorithm for this particular problem statement, which is actually having a very, very less time constraint. And definitely space constraint will also be taken place over there. Now if I take an example of bubble sort and merge sort, in merge sort you may require more memory, okay, in bubble sort you may not. Over there the time constraint will be high. So like this, again, we'll be discussing about this. Don't worry about all the algorithms we'll be covering up. I'll be covering up considering the problem statement. That will be the best thing, Now we have discussed about this, okay. So considering this time constraint, we have some of the notation that we say, okay. So I will be saying something called as big O notation. Big O notation, which is actually given by, O. There will also be something called as omega notation. This is omega notation. This is basically called as the worst case. Worst case. This is called as the best case. I'll just discuss about this two right now. Again, in my next video, I'll be making you understand there are more types of, this is also called as asymptotic notations. And I'll also be discussing more about this in my next video itself. That is tomorrow itself. I'll be explaining you with the help of some functions and all. Okay. Now, if I consider this big O notation basically says that what is the worst time constraint for this particular problem statement. Suppose I'm executing I'm doing some sorting algorithms, and for that I'm using two for loops. Okay, two for loops from 1 to n, 1 to n. Okay, so this is my condition. Over here, the worst case will be that it will be iterating through n times on the top loop and another n times to the inner loop. So the total time constraint, the worst case will be order of n square. Okay, again, don't worry, I'll be explaining you mathematically, but this is just an example. Okay, now similarly, if I consider the best case, the best case will be what will be the best case that this program will get executed in. So somewhere like that. So this, usually the time constraint is mentioned with the help of a function. Okay, so let me just show you how usually we decide it out. Okay, so this is my space constraint. I'm just going to rub it out quickly. Now suppose, usually when we are discussing about time constraint, we usually create this kind of graphs. Okay, usually this x-axis basically say that how many number of inputs I have, and this is basically mentioned with the help of time, how much time it is actually taking. Now usually some of the functions will be somewhere like this shape. This basically indicates that after this point, that is suppose n naught, okay, as the size of the input increases, the time also increases, and this is basically given by a function called as f of n. Now f of n specifies a time constraint. Now if I consider something called as the asymptotic notation, that is big O notation. big O notation. Now in big O notation, I told that there will be a function, okay? Suppose if I try to draw this, it will be looking something like this. So here this is mentioned by C multiplied by G of n, okay? Now this basically indicates that after this point n0, that is after this input size of n0 that is greater than n0, so n0 will be after this particular size, n is greater than n0, there will always be a function C multiplied by G of n which will be always greater than this f of n. This f of n is basically my time constraint, and it will always be greater than C of G of n. Okay, so this is basically my worst case. At every point after a value of n0, you know, it will always be increasing. Now similarly, if I consider about the omega notation, right? This omega notation is basically the best case. For that, there will be again another figure which will look something like this. Okay, so I'll say this as C multiplied by G of n, or let me just make it as another function, considering it as L of n. Now when I consider this, there will always be a function after some point n is greater than n naught, and this both n naught may be similar, may not be similar. Okay, it cannot be similar sometimes, you know, considering this C value also plays a major role, guys. This constant also plays a major role. We'll go into depth, but just understand this is a function which will always be less than f of n. So this is my best case, this is my worst case. This is a simple definition of time constraint. The time will always be higher whenever it is higher after a value of n0 or input function n0 or number of input values n0. It is going to always be greater than f of n. And remember, this C value may change, this C1 value may change. It will never be similar. Okay. Now this is an example of time constraint again, guys. Now if I consider one more thing about memory constraint. Memory constraint, as I told you, will always be dependent on the amount of memory that is used. Amount of memory that is used. Right? So amount of memory that is actually used. Now when I'm considering this, always remember, higher the amount of memory, you know, the higher the amount of resources are actually allocated, and because of that, that cost also will get increased. So it is also pretty much important that we consider the memory constraint in mind whenever we are doing some coding or we are doing some problem statements. Now, okay guys, now I have a very important interview questions, and again, you don't require any algorithms. This is the first competitive programming that I'm going to show you, and it is a simple problem statement. It is a little bit tricky, so just try to solve this, and if you are able to get the solution, please do comment down in the comment section. I'll definitely give you a reply if you're correct. Okay, now remember, this particular problem statement was given to one of my friend who had actually attended Amazon interview recently. I'll not say recently, just 3 to 4 months back. So just try to solve this particular problem. So the question is, suppose you have a list of numbers. The list of numbers looks something like this: 1095, 1094 and 1095. Suppose this is my list of numbers. Okay, now if you're giving this as an input, your output should look something like this: 1005, okay, 1014, 1015. Okay, so this is the output that you should get. Now what we are doing over here, understand, here you have actually given these numbers in this particular format. Automatically the output is making sure that all this particular number, by changing one value, it is making this in a sorted order, okay, or in the ascending order. So here you can see this 1095 is getting converted to 1005, 1094 is getting converted to 1014, and this 1095 is again getting converted to 1015. Now here you can see that, try to apply a logic wherein you'll make sure that all this value will be converted into a number in this particular format so that it looks in an ascending order. Pretty much simple. This is your input, you should get this as the output. Try to write a simple code snippet. Again, you don't require any algorithms over here, simple logic, some type of for loops, some type of change of numbers, that's it. So just try to do it. In my next video, I'll also give you the solution for this. And I hope you understood this particular video. I hope you liked it. Again, there are a whole lot of things to discuss. Tomorrow's video, I'll be discussing about asymptotic notation in depth. we'll try to understand what exactly is worst case, best case, how do we derive that particular function. I'll give you some examples with respect to the functions when I am writing it as c multiplied by g of n or f of n. We'll try to discuss all about those things. So yes, I hope you like this particular video. Try to solve this particular problem statement. So guys, thank you for seeing this particular video. Please do hit a like button if you have liked this particular video. It will again motivate me to make more interesting videos for you all. So, and please don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day ahead. Thank you one and all. Bye bye.